Oh, wonderful.
How's it going?
Quinn, how are you?
I'm good. How are you, Jordan?
I am superty duper. I am a fan of your work, and I saw you on Instagram, and I thought, by golly, old Quink would be great on the podcast.
Oh, well, thanks so much for inviting me. I'm a fan as well. So,
Wonderful. You don't have to say that.
well, it seems like the proper thing to say, you know. I'm
It
a fan
is.
now
It
that I've
is.
looked into you, and, I think it's great to be doing things like this out in the world.
Well, that's the great thing about the internet, podcasting, and websites is 3 minutes before you join. Not you, but before a person can join, you can go, holy shit, who am I talking to? Click, 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 watch the stuff. I'm a fan. I've done that.
Well, to be fair, it was like 3 hours ago, so I think I get a
Okay,
little more credit.
preach the honesty. When I looked at your bio, now you're with the art class.
Yes, I recently signed with art class.
They are on fire. I think you made a smart decision.
Yes, they are. They are going about things a little bit differently, and so I really appreciate it. Yeah.
How is that? How is it different?
I think that they have found ways to work within the constraints. I think as a creative person, but specifically as a commercial director, one thing that nobody acknowledges enough is that the job is about creativity within constraints, right? And I think the constraints are a moving target. So like as soon as you learn what the constraints are, they change, right? And every job is different. And I really think that the team at art class is super, like, flexible is not the right word, creatively flexible in terms of how to meet new constraints as they arise. They don't have a one formula in approaching every job. They approach each job as if it's unique and how to best achieve the outcome that makes everybody the most happy, right? The most creative outcome. So,
Let me think about that here and process what you're saying, because I agree that each job is its own challenge and opportunity, because each board, I mean, while we may get stuff that's like the one we did last year, each one comes with its own set of personalities, budget, deliverables, and all that. But creatively, I like what you're saying, that they're helping you as a director figure out, well, how can we creatively, we can't have an elephant parade, but maybe we could get some llama.
yeah.
And I think the plural of llama is llama, but I could be wrong. Are you saying it's like that? Like it's not just you, the director, having to solve all the creative problems?
I think yes, but I think that more so they put me in a position where I can solve the problems without
Oh,
having to
that's better.
worry about, you know, without being bogged down by sort of like all the technical budget issues and endless little production things that I think can, when a director gets too in the weeds on, it can kind
Mm-hmm.
of like impact our creativity because I'm here to solve problems. I'm here to bring something to life. And then I allow the constraints to come in. You know what I mean? If I start in a place where I'm like, it's a list of things I can't have and I can't do, that changes how I approach the problem, right?
My stars, Quinn. I'm always taken aback when a director says something like, the producer told me, no, we can't do this, we can't do that. And I'm like, well, that's not fostering creativity.
Yeah.
And the budgets, budgets and spreadsheets, they scare me. I'm a simple, unfrozen caveman director. So that's good to hear that they're supportive like that. And then going back to what you said about sort of the sandbox, well, never is an absolute, but I rarely have seen the constraints of whatever's presented me from the agency, or increasingly now client direct, as handcuffs.
Yeah,
They're goalposts.
they're goalposts.
How can we play within the sandbox? If anything, and I just read an article by a big advertising wizard whose name escapes me, but he's like Sir somebody, right? Like royalty. That's where creativity thrives. When you put the pressure from the guard, when the guardrails are there, that's when more ideas explode out.
I couldn't agree more. I think that it's so easy to get upset and bogged down by the fact that you can't do this one thing that you wanted to do, or you go into a job and you're like, well, I can't have this, I can't have this, and the budget won't allow that, and they don't like this. And then all of a sudden, you're focused on all the wrong things, right? And this is like let me be clear. I don't want to give the impression of being a positive person because that's not it.
That is
That
not
is not,
Quinn.
that's not me. But I will say,
You're not a positive person?
I mean, I don't know. I think I'm maybe just a touch too cynical
Sure.
to really,
Well, that's why you do comedy.
yeah, yeah. But I think that like, the the limits have to live within a world of, okay, like I always try to reframe it as I get to have this instead of I can't have whatever, like I get
Hmm.
to have a crane, but I do not get to have the BB light, which, like it's like,
Gotta have the BB light.
I know. Yeah.
I don't even know what a BB light is. I am so technically inept.
Well, the
I
BB
know what
light's
a
just
BB
like
light
that
is.
really, really gigantic big light that also requires cranes and lots of equipment
Yes.
and people.
Give me a spot on your art class reel and tell me an example of something where you played within the sandbox and came up with a solution. I'm putting you on the spot here, and we can take a little break if you want to think about it.
No, no, I can think of a
Um,
couple, I think maybe a better example, it was before I joined art class, and
yeah, where were you then?
I was with Pretty Bird.
Pretty Bird. Oh my God, goodness. Kirsten, an alum of the podcast.
Oh,
And I always wonder, like, don't they have, I think they're up to 840 directors.
yes, yes. Well, 839 now. But they they're
Great
wonderful.
people.
They're an
Yeah.
amazing company. Kirsten's amazing. I'm such a fan, but I think, the reality that we're in is like a lot of comedy boards that we're seeing are in a certain budget range that are quite difficult for larger production companies to tackle, and so that hindered me a little bit. But I
And
did,
for the listener, Pretty Bird is a gigantic company, and they branched into award-winning documentaries. They have Paul Hunter started the company, I believe. And you're right, Quinn, that a comedy budget is typically. I always tell people if they're starting out, go into lifestyle or pharma, lifestyle, because there you get 4 days to shoot one spot. Comedy directors, we're thrown four scripts. Can you do it in a day?
correct.
With a bunch of comedy alts from the insecure writer who doesn't know what's going to stick.
Yeah.
And so the nimble production company can figure out how to make that happen. I mean, and Pretty Bird's overhead must be crazy. They have a hot tub with a built-in espresso machine
Yeah.
next to the cold plunge.
Yes, they are a very well-known company with a lot of accolades and a lot of Oscar winners on the roster.
Is that hard to leave a company like that?
It
And
was
you can
very
pass on
hard.
any question.
No, I won't pass. It was very hard because I love the people and
Hmm.
I really built an identity around being a Pretty Bird director. But I think, I had to take a hard look at the business and where things are headed. And I just, the ego is something that I think all directors have to fight on a regular basis, right? And I think fighting my own ego is just as much part of the job as doing storyboards and being on set and all of that. And so I want to work. I want to make great stuff and I want to be busy all the time, you know? And so,
Look at you keeping it real on the podcast.
yeah.
It is about the balance of ego and humility, whether it's on set collaborating because you're a hired gun. Uh, I've said for years, both on the show and in my teachings, we're like a wet nurse, a doula
Yes.
for the agency and client, bringing this to life. So you have to have some humility that at the end of the day, it's not your baby. I'm always humored when someone will be like, they took that idea from my treatment and I didn't get the job, but I saw it in the spot. I'm like, yeah, that sucks, but were you going to use, the flaming tire? When were you going to shoot the flaming tire bit? That wouldn't have existed had you not pitched on someone else's project. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, I've been in that situation before,
Of course you
yeah,
have.
seeing a spot run and you're like, no way.
Yeah, no, it sucks.
I also my first instinct is usually like, oh, maybe that wasn't as an original of an idea as I
Right. Maybe 5 of us had the
maybe
flaming
it's
tire.
possible that all of us had that idea. And then I also tend to think that like that you're right, like it wasn't my idea. Like the ideas that I'm bringing were triggered because of someone else's idea that had to exist first, you know?
You're throwing logs on the comedy fire.
Yeah. So that's how I end up ultimately allowing myself to let go, you know, after a seance and voodoo dolls and, you know, spiraling into the unknown.
I would love to join you on a seance. I interrupted you. I asked you for an example, and you took us back to Pretty Bird, and then I went down a rabbit hole of Pretty Birds. Is there a spot where you can tell us, like, oh, uh, they had this, but they couldn't afford it, and I made this happen? Or
Sure, sure. So anytime you work with a celebrity, right? Oftentimes they're like every director wants celebrity work on their reel, right?
sure,
But one of the realities is that the client is often so pressed for budget after they've afforded the celebrity that very little is left over for production, right? And so you find yourself in a moment where you're like, we have a big celebrity and I don't have any money to do any of the cool stuff the celebrity should get, you know? And so that can be really challenging. I did a Super Bowl spot with Cardi B, and
Cardi B,
yes,
doesn't she make the
yes,
noise?
and there were lots of
The duck
challenges.
lips, I think it's called.
Duck plump, yeah,
Duck plump.
yes,
And listeners, I'll post the spot with the blog. It's very funny, Quinn. And I think we allude that men may have mistaken duck for penis because they
correct,
sound alike, which is a very funny thing. You know, you used to like the hard-on cream. Why don't your hands get hard?
correct.
Right?
There's like a lot of little nuggets in it along the way, and we had to get so many different approvals. And ultimately, the NFL, the day before, decided that they did not want to be disparaging to men on the platform that historically has objectified women. You know, but and that was challenging. We had to recut the spot so that it just said like, "Hey, go see the rest of this." Um, but
So the cut on art class under your tab is a director's cut,
no, that's the real spot.
the long form.
Yes, it just didn't
Gotcha.
air that way on,
Understood.
yeah, that it didn't air that way on the day of the Super Bowl, but it aired
So
elsewhere.
you're strapped for money because they spent all the money on Cardi B, but you do have a nice set with dancers. The spot's very colorful, and then you cut. It's not just that one set. There's a bunch of other sets
Yes.
where they're carrying a man and things like that. How'd you? Is that where you came
So we
up
were just
with
being,
nimble solutions?
yeah, we were being really nimble. We were being really smart, trying to combine as many locations as possible so we weren't traveling around, adding shoot days, things like that. But I'd say the bigger thing that we had to battle along the way was sometimes you're serving so many entities, right? And I think we all are like, oh, Super Bowl spot. Yes, absolutely. I want to do it. But the reality is that something like a Super Bowl spot gets quadruple the amount of eyes as it's
Sure.
in the making process, right? So not only do you have the agency people that you're dealing with, right? But then you also have the client, but then the client also has their holding company entities, the higher order above them, and then they have board members, and it's just like everybody's eyes are on this one piece of work because it's the Super Bowl and it's the biggest stage, and
They're spending so much
we're
money.
spending so
What
much
about
money.
Team
And look at
Cardi?
this media. We
Team
got
Cardi
Cardi
B?
B. Yeah. And so the trickle down effect of information from that really, really high level to me on set getting a note being like, Cardi can't make this certain face. And I'm like, what? You know, like the the level of absurdity coming back to like
Right.
constraints, right? Like sometimes you get a note and it's so you can't even wrap your head around it, but then you realize that the ladder of information that this had to travel through to get to,
The telephone game.
yeah, is really complicated. I kind of think I forgot what your original question was. Oh,
No, you're answering like the solves. You came up with some solution.
yeah, and so coming up with like solutions to how to navigate that. That's why when we found out that the NFL wasn't going to run it, after we had sort of navigated this incredible, like, because it's an edgy spot, right? It definitely pushes the envelope. We knew that going into it. We knew what we were up against. We knew the challenges we could potentially face with a spot like that, where, not only were we being overly suggestive with Cardi B to like set up the idea that this was for a different body part, but we were also sort of making fun of men for the likelihood that they would think that,
Yeah.
And so we knew it was riddled with landmines, but we sort of were able to navigate the whole way through, despite being thwarted at the end. I think it did pretty well, because when people find out that something doesn't run, it can kind of blow up after the fact. So
Right. You capitalized on the notoriety
yeah.
of that. Ooh, bravo. And I have to say, I watched that spot again this morning, 3 minutes before we jumped
Oh,
on.
great.
And the first half of it is funny, like the premise, the setup to the joke of guys thinking it's dick instead of duck. To me, is funny. Like if I didn't know that was coming, I still would go, "Oh, this is funny,"
Yeah.
because it's you're sort of she's taking the piss out of herself with the duck face and the lips and the everything.
Yeah, I mean, and that was really, that was another thing that, like, on the day of the shoot, we were meant to have her body cut, like, it says duck plump in really big letters,
Yeah,
right? And her body was meant to always be covering one part of the U.
yeah,
And
to
that
make it
was
look like
like
an eye.
a big note on the day that we couldn't do that. And so,
And you're like, the comedy hinges on the
and I was like,
misdirect.
our whole spot is that. But it ended up
I can't
working.
compete with these stories, but two quick ones with quasi celebrities from the sports world. I have this football player, Troy Polamalu, and he's known for his gorgeous locks. He's retired, but he actually has a contract with Head and Shoulders and does all these commercials. And I was shooting him for a Hyundai commercial, which is an automobile. And they said, you can't make fun of his hair. You can't do any hair jokes. And I said, oh, well, I thought we're shooting him slow mo. It'd be great if his hair was blowing a little bit. No, you can't do that. That violates Head and Shoulders. Like, I didn't even bring it up. They go, just don't ask him about his hair.
What?
And I go, okay. So the first thing I did when I met him, he was the sweetest man, a gentle giant, Quinn, was like, I said, hey, oh, great. Our first shot, you're posing and, you're like a statue, you're so beautiful. And it's in slow motion and the camera's moving. It'd be better if your hair were kind of blowing or you tossed your hair. I just went around the NFL
Yes.
and the agency. The agency was loving that and said, could we, blow a fan on your hair? And his hairdresser, who I think travels with him everywhere, said, I've got a fan. And the hairdresser did the fan. Like,
There
it
you
was
go.
beautiful. Same thing with this hockey player, Sid Crosby, who's like the LeBron James of hockey. And I don't know hockey, so I use that reference. His manager was also his uncle and was also the client, a consultant for this coffee chain in Canada named after another hockey player named Tim Horton.
Oh, I've heard.
And he was going to work the drive-through, this NHL Hall of Famer. And the uncle manager client's like, he can wear a golf shirt. He's not wearing the uniform. He's not wearing the visor and the name tag and the shirt. No, that's not his look. He's going to wear his thing. I said, okay. The first thing when Sid Crosby came in his trailer and I was waiting, I go, it'd be better if you wore this. And I'm holding the name tag and the visor and the shirt. And he goes, yeah, we got to do it right. And the manager uncle client just stared at me for being disobedient, but never said a word because his client nephew loved it. So I say to the young director,
Yeah.
take a chance,
Yes, I think,
right?
yeah,
What?
take a chance, but also when you're given a constraint, sometimes there's like a very smart loophole to the constraint. You know what I mean? There's always a loophole to getting what you want, and the risk, varies in case by case. But I think, like, for example, when you're working with a talent and you bring something to them and you're like, you know what? You know what would be so awesome? And then they're like, yes, I do. I do think that is awesome. And you're like, I know. Should we do it?
Did we do it? Oh, I like that
You know,
way to do it.
yeah, it's sort
You're
of,
crafty, Quinn.
it's in their court now. I love that. I love thinking around sort of okay, here's my constraint. The answer isn't always come up with a new solution, right? Sometimes the answer is find a new way to get the thing that you originally wanted. You know what I
Right.
mean? Yeah. So I,
Yeah, the last one I had an EP brought up that we couldn't do we couldn't cut away to a moving train
mm,
in the spot because of the budget. And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! I have an idea." And my pitch was to use a model train in front of the actor, and he would pick up the cars and take them off the train, the train that was transporting them. Because in the script it was like, well, maybe we could do a green screen, or could we go to a train doesn't have to be moving, and the actors waving out of the train and all this stuff.
mm.
And I think that pitch, and then having another actor look at the camera and say, "It's a metaphor," actually one like that moment was crystallized the pitch.
Yeah.
And a younger me would say, "What the fuck? Why did she even bring up that on the call and budget on the call? It's a creative call." But humility me says, "Well, Jordan, take a little responsibility. I could have told the EP my pitch before the call."
Hmm.
So, I mean, tell me if you agree or not, but if you're going to pitch, something that's a big twist in the script, do you surprise your EP that's on the phone call with you? Or do you call them and go, "Hey, just so you know, I'm pitching a llama parade because I love the elephants, but I know you're going to freak if I say we're doing an elephant. We can't bid the elephants." Or do you just get on and do it? At this point, Quinn, Super Bowl spot under her belt, she just does what she wants. Shoots from the hip on the call.
No, I mean, look, if I have the I have this tendency to have ideas in the moment, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, so like I will be on the call and they'll be telling me no to something, and then I will immediately think of, oh, what if it was this instead? And
The comedy chops.
yeah, yeah, I'm an improv girly, but I think I always caveat it with, now I'm going to say something and my producer's head's going to explode. So don't hold her to this. But what if instead it was this? And then I'm like
Right.
watching the producer and the call be like,
Or they kick you under the table even though it's a Zoom.
Yeah, yeah. And and it's one of those things where it's like I can pitch something that moves the ball up the court but still gives her the opportunity to go, timeout. Quinn didn't know what she was talking about. You know what I mean?
Quinn was on the puff puff.
Yeah. And what's great about that though is that now they're thinking about something else. Even if that idea that I brought to the
Right.
table didn't solve something or they didn't like it or it didn't, it's now a new idea in the blender. And when you have a new idea in the blender, you're getting some new flavors, new things are kicking around. You know what I mean? And that's kind of part of the job of prep is to kind of always be pushing things a little bit further every,
Putting things in the blender.
yeah, in the blender.
Is the blender metaphor that you just came up with, is that new for this podcast, or do you always say in the comedy blender?
No, I just came up with that because
It's off the dome.
I just can hear my husband preparing to make a smoothie, and this is the number one thing that might make us get divorced
Oh,
is me listening to the smoothie maker.
well, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Is your husband in the business of filmmaking?
Yeah,
Or
he's not.
writing
Thank God,
comedy?
he is not. No. You think
What
my
is the
ego
husband?
could handle competition? Are you kidding me?
Well,
My
that's
job is
why
to
I
laugh at
asked.
me, okay? And when he doesn't laugh at me, then we get in a big fight. So it's a really healthy relationship.
My God, my wife hasn't laughed at my jokes in such a long time.
Well,
She won't touch me. Am I sharing too much? I kid. I just want to see if you'd laugh. Tell us about your comedy background before you got into advertising. I went to high school in Richmond, Virginia, where you were born.
where?
Meadowbrook High School.
Oh, wow.
It's on the wrong side of the tracks. Do you know it?
I was also from the wrong side of the tracks.
Where'd you
South
go to
side,
school?
baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in Midlothian, but I went to Trinity Episcopal.
You went to the private
I went
school.
to a private school. I was already showing signs of delinquentness, so I had
And
to.
where are you right now?
I'm actually in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, wow. Do you live there?
I
It's so
do.
beautiful.
I do.
Congrats.
Thanks. Yeah, you start cranking out kids, and then all of a sudden moving to another place becomes really unfathomable. And so often I'm shooting in LA as much as I'm shooting in other parts of the world, and as much as I want to bring business to LA, which I do, and I try to as much as possible, some budgets are just too prohibitive, you know? And so shooting elsewhere.
Do you get to shoot in Boulder?
No, I don't love that. I have, but that's not a thing.
Well, it's not fair to the crew because the crew, they don't have the experience that we have in Los Angeles. Other cities do now, but I'm a snob.
I
That's another
understand.
story. I want to know about your comedy. When did you
Oh my
start
God.
comedy? In Richmond? You went down to the comedy club or
No,
improv group?
Richmond, I would say, was strictly for the trauma that allowed for the comedy to
Sure.
later. You know, I think that that's important to note. But then I went.
Richmond helped the wound fester.
That's right. That's right. You know, everybody's got to get a little fucked up at some point to be funny. So
I left at 18.
yeah, so did I.
I couldn't get out. Couldn't get out fast enough.
Same. But I ended up moving to, or I went to University of Kansas because I'm like a multi-generation legacy person.
Are they the parrots, the fighting parrots?
Jayhawks. Yeah.
Jayhawks, parrots, same
Well,
thing.
same thing.
Sports guy.
Yeah. And then I got a job. It was the recession, and I miraculously landed a job with American Greetings, where I was like, after I had graduated, I was writing greeting cards, and
Oh, that's fun. They're out of Kansas City.
they have an office in Kansas City. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think they work with the Crayola people.
I think Hallmark might.
Hallmark. Okay. Ooh, the competitor.
Yeah.
So it's go. So you're writing greeting cards, which is its own discipline. You have to be pithy and short. The economy of words.
Yep.
Wow, Quinn. How did you have that skill?
I just knew I wanted to get paid to write. And so I was desperate to do whatever anybody wanted done and to receive $1 for it, you know? And at the time, Twitter was just sort of getting started, and I was doing a lot of jokes on Twitter, getting some attention for it. But then it turns out I was not, my brand of humor was not greeting card safe, which I am sure
Oh, boy.
is a huge surprise to everyone. But I started dumping all my rejected jokes onto Twitter, and I amassed this like big following. I mean, this is like 2009, 2010, you know. So,
I remember your account now.
well, yeah, Quink. Yeah. So and then it so happened that a creative director at an agency had been following me, and then he was like, "I want you to write for Sonic." At the time, they were doing the Two Guys campaign, which was very
Sure.
comedic. And so he brought me in based on my Twitter feed alone, which was crazy.
That's nutty.
Yeah, and so then
But like that's a good one-liner,
yep.
right? It's a setup punchline.
Yeah.
So you're working on Sonic, and for listeners, it was a classic campaign. I want to say it was Barkley, maybe.
Barkley, yes.
It was Barkley, which is now merged with something else.
Barkley,
But
OKRP or something, yeah.
OKRP, but Barkley, when it was just Barkley, was an independent agency. Still is merged. But I did a lot of work out of Barkley while that Sonic was going on. I never did the Sonic, and they would rig a car in sort of a Seinfeldian comedians in cars getting coffee way, and let these two improv guys riff a lot.
Yes.
And they would yield bushels of comedy spots.
Yes.
And oddly enough, my old partner owned the post house that edited those.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And his son, John McCone, cut a lot of the Sonic stuff, and he now owns a barbecue sauce. But that's another story. Rufus Teague. You know Rufus
shout out
Teague?
to Rufus Teague, yeah.
Rufus Teague and Brad Jungles left Barkley to run the funny advertising they do at
love
Rufus
Brad
Teague.
Jungles. He was one of my
I shot a lot.
mentors in the business.
Oh, he's the sweetest man in the
Really
world.
is, yeah.
Sweeter than a molasses-based hot barbecue sauce.
Yeah.
I think we went to the Kansas City Royal Barbecue Festival competition together.
That's his jam.
So back to Quinn. Quink. Can I call you Quink? Because that's the handle?
Sure.
Or would you prefer that?
No. Generally, it's Quinn, but you want to do Quink, that's fine.
I'm going to do Quinn then. I'm going to do Quinn. I don't want to be the crazy man. The Sonic was these guys improving, And then obviously the agency, the creatives would feed him lines, and then you became one of those creatives. You would feed them lines because you can't sift through all this improv and try to construct a joke. That's the challenge with improv in a comedy commercial is it goes on a little long. They can yes and it into a 1 minute spot. And then to me, the campaign lost its luster when it went to Goodby, I believe, and it became more scripted. And you would think Little Barkley in Kansas City, the David going, losing an account to Goliath, this comedy shop that has defined an era of advertising. But to me, it lost its charm.
It certainly did. Well, I think that what ended up happening, and don't fact check me, but I think what happened is Goodby sold, in their defense, they sold a different campaign in the pitch.
Yeah.
And they started that campaign, and people raged like, where are our guys? We want our guys back.
Where's Mr. Whipple?
All of a sudden it was the two guys, but in a new form under stringent new rules and things like that.
How did you make that transition from you taught yourself greeting card writing and you're getting just buckets of money? You probably get $10 a card.
That's exactly right. A little generous.
No.
Yeah.
No, what was it really?
No,
Can you say?
I was on salary. I was on staff. So
you're just cranking them out.
Yeah, and I was responsible for what they referred to as female humor.
Oh, yeah.
The topics were like chocolate,
Nylons.
being angry at men, shopping, and being old. That was like what I was allowed to make jokes about. So like I also, I'm early 20s and I'm just like on this feminist crusade to be like, women think other things are funny,
Sure.
I didn't have a lot of fans there, I will say. But
did they mansplain a lot?
Yeah.
And for the women listening, mansplaining is when a male will see what I did?
I see what you did there.
Yeah. But I think I interrupted you. You didn't make a lot of fans there. Why? Because you were the burning your bra. You were a feminist.
Yeah, I think I was young and I couldn't understand sort of like when you get into the world of monetizing your creativity, there's certain rules and certain things that you let go of, right? And it's not about losing values. It's just it takes practice to understand what to fight for. You know what I mean? Because if you're in
what a great training ground for being on set with Cardi B and the NFL and all. Like when you look back, and you're still so young. When you look back, I think everything has prepared you for this moment.
Yes. I mean, I spent, over a decade in advertising, being a writer, a creative director, a group creative director before making the directing.
Quinn, tell us about making the transition to directing. Were you frustrated? Who are these directors? Why don't they understand the script and the vision? Damn it, I should just direct.
No, although I'm sure there was some of that because, I can be a bit petulant, but I think it was much more like when I really took a step back and looked at what I liked about the work I was doing, it was being on set. It was standing next to the director. It was
you're one of those.
Holding myself back from direct. Yes, I am one of those. I'm the worst. I was just absolutely the worst. And I remember having this like epiphany that like, oh no, I'm 30. I'm so old. How could I ever make the change? And so, instead of following my dreams to become a director, I went ahead and took another job in advertising. And that.
Where was that one?
So I had been at Arnold in Boston and I was working on Progressive. I was doing Flow.
Oh my goodness.
Invented Flow
Classic.
Family. Yeah. And so all those characters and that whole thing that started when I was there. And I worked on that.
Oh my goodness. I love those. And she plays herself,
yes,
you mean?
Yes.
She plays all the characters.
She plays all the characters. And if you go back and you look at like the originals, like her playing her grandfather, like I've created a Bible for it. Like these characters had backstories. It was great. It was some of the most fun I've ever had being creative in my life. And just because it was so different for the brand at the time,
And who directed? Do you remember who directed some of those first ones with all the family?
Yes, the same person still directs them. It's Brendan Gibbons.
Brendan Gibbons. And did you learn a lot from Brendan Gibbons?
Did.
Or you were in like a baby Bjorn
Yes.
while he directed, and you would
Yes. Well,
learn
it
that
was more
way?
like a gnat flying around his face that he was trying to swat away without killing. Yeah. Yeah.
But that's a great. I mean, I've said this repeatedly now for a decade plus. Creatives that do high profile work, working with high profile directors, learn for those women and men that are at the helm, and that's the best film school because you're not learning. Maybe you're not learning film theory and watching the battleship Potemkin, but you're learning from Brian Buckley directing a celebrity and making everything work and whatnot.
Yes.
So shout out to Brendan Gibbons. Helen, get Brendan Gibbons on the show. Tell him he's got an invite. Um, I think that's one. So you did glean your film school was on set.
It was, yeah. It definitely was. It was on set and then sort of like learning the ropes, right? So like I'd write a script and it would be crazy and then I'd be like, "Man, they're not going to buy this. It's going to be too much money. How can I like sneak this through in another way so it's more vague and then tell the director like, "Hey, here's what I really want to do."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then like because your relationship with the director, I think there's this school of thought like you want to be friends with them, but really you shouldn't be. Like they should be annoyed by you because you're constantly pushing them or challenging them or asking why something is a way that it is, that's
I think you
go ahead.
I think you could be friends with the director and still be annoying. Um, there's Jason Bagley is a former Wyden and Kennedy creative
Yeah.
who he did a video like his rules, and he teaches the School of Astonishing Astonishments or something, and people love it. And he's super funny and did Old Spice, I'm on a Horse.
Uh-huh.
So shout out, get Jason on the show too. And but he made a video that made me like it was kind of boomer-esque from an era that I think is it was too absolute. Don't be friends with the director. They're all buddy buddy.
Oh,
You want to get out of them exactly the script. Don't let them stray. Blah blah blah. And I mean, unless I misread it, and somebody made a woman director made a counterpoint to it that I fully support. It's like I'm friends with so many creatives and creative directors I work with, and on the shoot day they annoy the fuck out of me, and that's their job. So take a step back and like the sheepdog and the coyote clock into work. Your job is to come to the shoot unfettered with time and budget constraint. I mean, at a certain point, your producer should rein you in. But I think the creative should push the director to get
100%.
as much as you can to do even the alt takes that I think after seven have a diminished return on comedy. Push me.
Yeah, or
I'm there to
question
make
what
it.
I'm doing, or
Yeah.
I invite that. But I think more so as an agency creative, sometimes when you are working with a director, the desire to be friends with them prevents you from doing that. Because I also know that certain times I can walk onto set and have a don't challenge me kind of attitude. You know what I mean?
You can have that as a director.
Yeah, I can have that. And I've
Yeah.
worked with many directors who have, and I'm like, oh, I don't even want to ask.
Well, when you question craft, I draw the line.
Mhm.
Like someone recently was like, "What if you before you move the camera? What if you?" And I'm like, "No, I told them to move the camera. Not on ceremony, but we're moving the camera because I have interpreted your request to tighten these things up. So we're not going to stand here and have freshman year film school and try something that's technically going to work
I know, I
when
know.
I know it's going to work. So there I'll put the foot down. But if it's a creative idea, like, would it work if, she had a lollipop? Let's see if we can get a lollipop before lunch.
Exactly.
I have
Yeah,
no problem. Let's cram it in, baby.
totally. Or like, hey, what if instead of this line they said something like this? Oh, great. I love that. Let's go run it back. Like let's go see. I think that that's great. I think, there's a lot to be said for the collaborative experience. I think a lot can die by committee, so I don't want to act like I love
Oof,
that. It's
the worst.
our nightmares. But I do think that there is also sometimes the humility that comes from being like, oh damn, I didn't even think about that.
Hmm.
Is like a pretty solid moment to have on set sometimes. I don't want it to happen to me all the time. But when you're like, hey, what if the joke played more like this, and then it opens up a new path of thinking for me because I'm focused on something else and I'm not even thinking that, like, amazing, you know?
How do you handle, do you go back to the video village and talk to the agency, or do you get everything walkie-talkied from your producer to the AD?
I'm a big go back and kiss the ring and do a dance at the beginning of a setup, and
Like a river dance?
like a
Like a, I
like
love it.
a let's not take this too seriously kind of
Yeah.
everybody be happy kind of dance. You know, I think it's important to be accessible, but to also have boundaries, right?
Mhm.
Again, like without them, I'm not here. So it's important to be like, I value your opinion. I want to make sure everybody's feeling good. If there's something we need to discuss, let's do that face to face if it's serious, because the way I interpret it over a walkie-talkie is not going to be positive, you know? And so if I know there's big notes coming through on the walkie, I always go back and have a conversation.
Same, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd rather take the little walk, and it's quicker.
it is.
And looking at an AD with an earpiece going,
Oh,
they're saying they want to try, and I'm like, I don't
no,
even
no.
understand what you're
Yeah,
saying.
they're saying they
And
want to try it again, but this time faster. And I'm like, I couldn't even understand what they said because it was so
right.
fast this last time. So let me go back and find out what, because the note is never the note, is what I know. You know, like when you get a note and you're at camera and it comes from Village, the note is not the note. The note is actually what's behind it, right? And so I think because we are always pressed for time, we're always trying to be efficient. Occasionally, the note you get from a client or an agency will be telling you what to do.
How to do it versus what they want to see
Yes. And
achieved.
so my whole thing is always don't tell me that. Tell me what the problem is, and then I will come up with some solves. You know what I mean? Because if I don't
Hmm.
understand the problem, I can't just go and do what you're asking because it won't fit into the system.
Quinn, this is a master class on directing, and I want to bring listeners up to speed that I think everyone's following. But in Video Village, you've got the client and the ad agency, and there's usually account people, and then the director's line producer is there. And so they're all talking. And if you're moving at a clippy pace, and they're all talking, and your producer in that video village, sometimes in a tent, will say, yeah, let's move on, and then we just move on. I don't need to trot back and say how great it was. I'll do that while they're moving the camera.
Yes.
But if it's like talking about they should do this, what if she does that, I don't like the way this, let's lose the hat, I'll go back and go, we've shot 7 different angles with the hat, so the hat will magically disappear if we take the hat off.
Yes.
But some
Oh, we didn't know that. Yeah.
We didn't. Oh, right, right. Continuity. And then sometimes the note is interpreted by the producer and it goes in the ear of the AD who tries to repeat it. I mean, it's like, it's not just the telephone game, it's the telephone game with people using Google Translate a few times along the way.
Yes, and that's why it's so important for your first AD to be someone who understands the difference between. It's very easy for him to say, "Hey, they'd like it again, but this time hold the product differently." That's a great, easy walkie-talkie note. Okay,
Yeah.
we'll twist it a little bit more to camera. Copy.
Technical.
Yeah, but this having a first AD who's like, hey, they're asking a lot of questions about the bigness of the performance. They want it to be bigger. Maybe you want to go back and chat. And I'm like, great, time me. You know, like
This,
that's
I
like
hope
a
this
good
makes
way.
it to a video clip for the Instagram of Quink and that Jordan Brady. But it's this I love this one. The AD's going.
Oh, and you're like,
And then they go like this. I think you better go back there.
yeah, and you're like, you want to
They don't
give me a heads
understand.
up? What am I walking into? Yeah.
Now, here's a pro tip that I'm sure you do, Quinn, but for the listener.
Hmm.
I always say at the pre-pro, hey, we've had a fun time. I'm going to be a taskmaster tomorrow. We've got a lot to accomplish. A lot of great minds in this room. In the village, it would really help us get more done and get more performance and get more shots and try things if there's one voice in the village.
Hmm.
Now, if I were shooting for Quinn back in the day, you'd raise your hand and go, I'll be that voice. There's usually a creative director that steps up and says, I will be that voice, or
Hmm.
a producer. And I go, great, let's funnel the ideas. Because if we do everybody's great idea, we're going to run out of time.
Correct. Yes.
So that's one thing that helps me. And the other one is the ADs that I work with know this one, unless it's someone new, I tell them at the beginning of the day, never over the walkie say, we're happy, what do you guys think? Just say this, Jordan's really happy, he says we've got it, he's coming back there. Not let's move on. Jordan's really happy, he says we got it, he's coming back there. And then I go back and just say, that last take was not good, the one before, when we did the series of jokes, was great. Or her sweet emotion was so authentic a take ago. We've got it. What do you want to do? What do you want to do different? I don't ask even move on until after lunch when I'm an hour behind and say, we have to move faster. But it's collaborative, but it's from a place of leadership.
Yes, because that is the most important thing to remember is that you are the leader of all of these people.
Of the SS Cuckoo.
Yeah. Yeah, that's leadership. I think another thing that is really important about that too is like, because so much of what I like to do is I will craft a performance, right? And so often that means I'm not calling cut. I'm right.
You're letting it roll.
We're rolling. I'm giving direction. I'm waiting to see the exact feeling. I'm triggering them. I'm poking them. I'm trying to draw this performance out in the most authentic way possible. So the second it comes out, I stay there and then I call cut because or I keep going because now they're warm. Now they're in the space. Now we got what we need. And my biggest, the worst is like when you're not getting what you need from a performer. So you're having them do something totally different because they just got to get out of their head. You know what I mean? So you're like, okay, pretend you are a bridge troll and you are carrying this shampoo through the bridge to your evil overlord. And they're like, what? And you're like, just do it, you know? And then they do that. And then you bring them back to the character they're supposed to be in the performance that they're supposed to be given. And all of a sudden it's great. But
you got them out of their head.
You don't have time to run back to Village to go, hey, don't freak out.
Right.
We're not doing the bridge troll thing. I'm just doing this so that the actor can get more into the role, who they can loosen up. You know what I mean? And that's when you're all of a sudden your AD's like, you know, and you got to be like, cut it off. Just turn your walkie off for a second.
Right.
Or tell them I'm doing something, cut the feed, whatever you got to do, you know?
It's trust.
Yes.
Yeah. The pre-pro, I also say the first 2 takes are going to suck.
Always.
And they're going to suck, and you're going to be in the village like, what is happening? And I'm going to be at the monitor going, oh my God, this is a train wreck. And the third take will be magical. But have you ever, I mean, you can't do this, I'm joking, but did you ever drop like, I put Flo in many costumes? I think I know what I'm doing. I've won some awards.
I mean, I am working on a project right now that is very similar, and you know, because I did Flo and then I did Captain Obvious as well. So,
I love Captain Obvious.
Yeah, I do have a specialty in that sort of brand world, and I am working on a project like that, and so sort of dropping that every once in a while to be like, hey, actually the best way to do this and what I wish we had done or what we didn't do, or hey, let's think about it this way, has been really helpful. But you know, I do find
that's a good drop.
What?
That's a good name drop. You know, when I was working on Captain Obvious.
Yes. Did you see what I
was that
did?
obvious that
did
I
you
just
see
dropped
how I just did that, Jordan?
I think it was.
Yeah.
By the way, that's kind of his lines. What agency was that when you had
CPB?
Yes, I think a young Aaron Cathy worked on that. Do you know him?
I do know Aaron Cathy from Kansas City as well.
He was from Berkeley.
Yeah.
That's why I brought it. But he worked on, and a podcast alum. But Captain Obvious, I love those so much because they're like greeting cards.
They are.
They're like this. Isn't that a similar like vein that you tap into in your brain?
Yeah, it's just sort of like the most obvious statement that given, to me, the formula was always like incredibly normal situation, crazy line from somebody else, very obvious statement from Captain, you know? And when we kept that formula, it always worked really well.
That's so cool. Is that an aha moment when you click into something like that?
I think you have to... Yes, but it more so comes from a place of this is the creative concept I want to sell. So how do I deconstruct it to make my client who doesn't understand yet the hypothetical reason this is funny how do I deconstruct it for them so that it's applicable and then they can sell it internally, right? And so in order
Gotcha.
to do that, you have to go, hey, it's a formula. Let me write it
People
down.
like that.
Let me put it in an Excel sheet for you. You know, like you want that in a deck? It's like,
You say it all sexy like
yeah, I
that?
do.
That's
I
like,
do.
hey,
And they get excited and it
that's
helps.
awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, we're running short on running to the end of our lovely conversation. I feel like we could talk for hours
Sure.
about the art and craft of directing commercials, but I want to ask you about uh, the spot on your reel to put the downy in the cup in the washer and a little
Yeah.
bit of wash it out. Turn around. It's a song parody.
Bonnie Tyler. Yep. Total Eclipse of the Heart.
Total eclipse of the heart. The woman's doing her laundry, and then the chorus of they're not angels, but the chorus dissolves in,
Yes.
and it's clear that your framing and the art direction on that were purposeful. Like you know, it wasn't just like, oh, maybe we decide that in the edit. Like you planned that whole song out beat for beat. And did you write that?
I did not write that. You know, the world of P&G, there's a lot of rules, and it's tough.
But it's very much written in your tone.
Yes, that I think is why I got the job. But I was very shocked that they allowed me to do some of the things that I got away with. Like just superimposing the chorus into those shots is very
So funny.
not them, and that spot did great things for them. So I just shot the next one.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
congratulations.
thanks.
For the same product,
Same product,
different song.
same song, different words.
Oh, interesting. Same cast?
Yes.
Same woman? That woman's wonderfully cast.
Ashley Bryant, she's incredible. She is an incredible actress. You know when you cast somebody
She,
and the camera just loves them? It's like the camera
yeah.
is like lusting after them, no matter what lens you choose, no matter what. It's like unreal what she does in front of a camera. I can't even explain it. But she's
Here's a pro tip. Pro tip. Never say this to an actor, actress, whatever, no, a person on camera. Never go, you're so beautiful on camera.
oh yeah, no.
And don't emphasize the on
Yes.
because they go, what?
Yes, and then
And does she really,
you feel them thinking it.
like, so I'm weird
Yeah,
looking off camera?
yeah, what's that?
Does she sing the song?
No, somebody else sang the song, and I was so pleased with the woman that we found. Her name's L.A. Benjamin, I want to say.
Oh, sure. And
But yeah.
the on camera woman, you have playback for her?
Yeah, so we're on set, and there's playback, and she lip syncs, and we crank it to the highest level that we can. And we worked with a choreographer because it's weird to work with a choreographer when you're like, I want to keep it loose. I don't want it to
Yeah.
feel like a planned dance, you know, no two-step in, none of that. Like it needs to feel normal, but here are the
It's not Jardius.
yeah, and he was so great at making that happen. And I, you know, like that can be really challenging for a choreographer to do is to like create a dance that a non-dancer, Ashley is not from a dancing background, that she can do, but that also feels of the moment, inspired by passion.
It feels spontaneous, inspired by passion. Wow. Well, I think Quinn, we're going to have to do a part
I
two.
can't wait.
Congrats on that spot and everything. A couple more questions. One, when people are on their phone, they're listening to this podcast on iTunes or Spotify, wherever they get their pods, and they click on the hot link of your name, where should it take them?
Oh my God, I don't know. Art class? The art class reel,
Sure.
probably? Yeah.
We'll take it to the art
Take it to the
class reel,
business. Yeah.
and then they can follow you on Instagram at Quink.
Okay. Yep.
Mhm. Quinn K or Quink, second N silent. The show is called Respect the Process. And let's not pretend you've ever heard an episode, but everyone ends it by answering this question.
Okay.
What does that mean to you, the term respect the process?
Great. Okay. Well, two-part answer. My favorite meme on the internet of all time is, does the process know we are trusting it?
That's a good one.
Yeah, yeah. To me, respecting the process is like the process. I think the idea that the process, because inherently the word process is very clinical, right? There's order to it. It's assigned. You know what it is. But the reality of a creative process is that it's not linear. it doesn't make sense. It's not even a circle, it's a splatter of paint, you know? And so respecting the process is trusting that when creativity is at the core of what you're doing and the choices that you're making and how you're leading, that it doesn't matter that you're over here or over here or here or there. Sometimes things don't make sense within the process, but respecting that it doesn't make sense in this moment, but potentially will later, is just a leap of faith that we're all taking together.
That's a great answer. Respecting the process allows for disrespecting the process. Quinn, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for sharing so much about your journey. I feel like we could go on. Keep us posted on your successes. For the listener, follow her, and I'm going to put the Cardi B spot, and I think I got to put that. Downey spot.
Yeah.
Got to put the Downey spot. And thank you so much for
Oh,
being a
thanks so
wonderful
much for
guest.
inviting me. It's
Okay.
so great to chat. Thanks, Jordan.
Likewise. Talk to you later. Have a
Talk
good day.
soon. Bye bye.
Bye.